Welcome to this week's Feel Fresh Monday Morning podcast, the space, the place for you to share any thoughts, questions, concerns, insights, and ultimately have either myself or Nat Hodges answer in a way that can both educate, inspire, or even just bring a level of awareness to your current alcohol reduction or your current relationship with alcohol. We're diving into I'm pumped to see where this one goes, Nat, because we can go so deep. And when I say deep, I mean we can go so it can be black and white, your view on it, or you can kind of play in the grey zone. And today's topic is relapsing.
Yep.
I just want to start the call by saying, what are your thoughts? What comes up when you hear the term relapsing in the context of alcohol reduction?
Oh, well, I can only be honest.
I think you said enough.
Yeah, it just comes with first of all, the word relapse. You've got to assess the context and model in which that comes out of. First of all, you're assuming there's something wrong. You're also assuming that it's negative and bad. You're also assuming that it comes with heaps of guilt. Relapsing, it's like it's you're not being a good boy, you're not being a good gal. It comes with reprimand. It comes with some kind of heaviness that doesn't have a place in a real alcohol reduction journey. Any self-reprimand, self-contempt, or relapsed again, that does not have a place in the alcohol reduction journey. It's not helpful.
So if for those of you that are with us live, hello, jump into the chat panel. Let us know your thoughts. Do you resonate? Are you feeling frustrated hearing this? Is it not the way that you'd view your relationship with alcohol and relapsing? Would love to hear from you. But for those of you that are listening on Spotify or YouTube right now, this recording today, as you can tell, we're diving into relapsing, when that is beneficial, when it's not beneficial, and ultimately, is it something that you want to be a part of on your alcohol reduction journey? Now, when and we're going to have this conversation's pretty free flowing, and just see where it takes us. Is that cool?
Yeah, for sure.
For me, when you talk about, it doesn't really have a place, I think what really resonates with me is that if you drink and then gravitate towards using the whole "I've relapsed," you kind of take away and interrupt one of the most important parts of life, which is hindsight. And
exactly. See, it doesn't have a place.
like if you're so caught up focusing on the fact that you've relapsed, you often blindside and black out any lessons or understandings or curiosity. Like, I'll give you an example. I was going to wait until a bit later on in live, but I'll give you an example of what sparked the passion for this podcast today. Now, one of our beautiful Evolve and private clients reached out to me. It was Saturday. It was Saturday. I got a message on Facebook from one of our awesome clients, and she's currently 6 or 7 weeks detoxing. Right, wanted to detox to kickstart the year, and when you open up anyone that is on Facebook, when you open up your Facebook messages, you can see the first sentence, and then you can't see the rest.
It's like a sneaky way to read it but not go into it.
Sneaky way to read it. So the text came through. So I had a few drinks last night was the first sentence. And everything in my body was like, yes, what's this message going to say? As opposed to back in the day, I actually would have approached it like, oh, God, it's done, stuffed up, mistakes were made, bad, naughty, shouldn't have done it, you've relapsed, get off, get back on the wagon, all that jazz. And so I opened the message, so curious, like, oh, cool, let's see what happens. Because whether you drink or not, I'm just excited to see what are you about to share? This is so cool. What could potentially come from this experience?
Yeah.
And I'm just going to rename it for the purpose of, let's say her name's Sarah for privacy. So Sarah wrote, I had a few drinks last night and the most amazing thing happened. This is not generally how you find the conversation go in a traditional system. It's I had a few drinks last night, and then let's interrupt now. Where'd you go wrong? Why'd you stuff up? What do you need to do to get back on track, etc., etc. Anyway, so Sarah wrote, had a few drinks last night, and the most interesting thing happened. I had 3 beverages. It made me feel like shit. I had a really bad sleep that I haven't had in over 7 weeks. I woke up this morning and had anxiety to the depth that I'd used to have about 2 bottles of wine to have anxiety. What I realized this morning was that, this thing just ain't for me anymore.
Yeah, that.
And,
Yeah.
and her final sentence, which just made my weekend, like it really did make my day. Her final sentence was like, I'm finally understanding what it means to change your relationship with alcohol. I no longer want it because it doesn't serve me, as opposed to I can no longer have it because I'm a naughty person.
Bingo.
And that just, it's not like we hear that a lot at Drink Less Feel Fresh. I hear that experience a lot, but it was just that reminder of, if you get focused on the relapse and you're bad, like what did you say earlier, Nat? If you're focused on kind of what's the term?
The reprimand, the self-reprimand.
There we go. It's like immediately you have a debt to pay to society. You got to punish yourself, or you've got to be a good boy or a good girl to fix it up. Now, one of the things I ended up having a conversation with Sarah, and one of the things I said is, isn't it cool where you get to learn from the universe what serves you, as opposed to you getting disciplined from a structure that someone set for you?
Yeah, bingo.
Bingo. I'm going to jump in and ask you a couple of questions here, Nat, on your experience, but that's one of the biggest key takeouts, I think, for individuals. It's not whether you agree with like relapsing is an important thing and it's an important part of the journey, or it's a tough part of the journey. However you look at it, you just got to ask yourself, are you getting so focused on relapsing that you're missing the education that you naturally get, like children do, from falling down in life?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are removing hindsight and relapsing, so to speak, and having a drink and then thinking they're back to square one. And that's actually what Sarah said too. She said, a year ago, I would have thought this meant I was back to square one. So 3 drinks would have been 7 drinks because I would have had the shits that I relapsed. And then the next morning, to avoid the pain of going, oh, I've relapsed, and having to admit that I've made fault, I would have drank again that day and that day and that day.
Yep. Mate, got 2 stories for you. First of all, my mum was here on the weekend. Love my mum. Mum's got a bunch of sisters, 4 or 5 sisters. All of them have been in rehab multiple times in their life for alcohol. Some drugs, but mainly alcohol. Every single time Mum and I catch up, oh, how's this sister doing? Oh, it's been 8 years now. She's doing well. How's this sister doing? Oh, she relapsed. This sister, this auntie, 15 years been in and out of the rehab system, and still feels like she's at square one. And the family affirm that because they have no other model to go on. They have no other model to go on. Let me tell you how dangerous this is for everyone watching. This is deadly for the human spirit. We've got to understand that in this culture, the status quo, the standard is attachment and addiction. It comes with this culture. It's part of it. If it's not alcohol, it's something else. For me, it was relationships. That was the biggest one. I had attachments everywhere. But the biggest one, addiction to the feeling of being in a relationship. I felt so much like a shit person because of it, because I couldn't not be attached. So I went mad trying to figure it out, because I didn't have the depth or the know or whatever to understand, hey, look, in this culture, everyone's going to attach and addict to something.
So you're saying like there was when you say that, I'm just looking for clarity, you're saying like it was difficult, like it's difficult to have the attachment, right? That's one thing, to experience the attachment. Yes. And then the suffering comes from, apparently I shouldn't. There's something wrong with me.
There's something wrong with me. I shouldn't be attached to things. It's impossible to be in this culture without being attached to things. It's impossible. So you got to work on a deeper level. If you're just trying to change the behavior, like my aunties are doing, it's going to feel like every time you do it again, it's going to feel like you're back at square one. It's impossible to do it that way. It's impossible. Another story. I'll finish this off. Yeah. My cousin, who is crushing it, did a big rehab journey. Nearly lost his life, had a car accident, drinking. Everyone told him stop it. Couldn't, got in a car drunk, crashed it, nearly died. Goes to rehab, he's been straight ever since. But he still every day he's got to follow his checklist. He can't be social because it's too overwhelming for him because he'll drink again. So he's clean, but he's locked in his own life. Like he's got a job now, which is great. He's looking after his daughter, but he has to stay so insular because if there's any like social things or come out and do this, he can't because he's still, what if I drink, I'm back to square one. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Crazy is the right word to describe it. At the same time, and you and I will be the first to say, Nat, do whatever you need to do to increase the quality of your life by 1%, for sure. So but don't let that be the fucking status quo. And that is, I think, what we're talking about today. It's like traditional systems, can be phenomenal at providing an increase in quality of life. It's like, yeah, life's better just because I don't drink anymore. But then to the extent of what you shared with your two examples there, I'm wondering which person has more freedom? The one that's so restrictive that they now don't consume alcohol, which is great, or the one that's quite restrictive and they let loose and live free by drinking alcohol in the moment?
Exactly. And mate, my mum and I were in the pool today. Sorry, this is crazy. My mum, we were in the pool and she's like, "Oh, how's DLFF going?" I'm like, "Yeah, great. Everything's really humming along, but we've got some really good flow." And she's like, "Oh, tell me a little bit about it." So I told her a little bit about it, and she goes, "Oh, but what about rehabs? What about AA and things like that?" And I just blatantly said, "I'm like, nah, they're too old school, and she unconsciously defended it to the death, defending like, what do you? I was like, it's so entrenched that she defended these old systems. I was like, why? What are you doing?
Well, it's almost like when you say that, it's almost like when we're high alcohol intake people and we're loving it, we'll defend alcohol to the depths, right? Because we always defend what keeps us so safe, but there's the red flag. We always defend what keeps us safe. Like it's alcohol, and if it's not alcohol, then we defend the system that kept us safe.
Yeah,
but it's like, it's a red flag. It's like, well, if you're defending it, is it keeping you safe or is it keeping you free? Or what?
I was blown away. I was like, look, Mum, this is what we do. We keep people in the culture. We keep them in their life. We show them how to live more, not drink less. And she was like, "Oh, it sounds good, but they need to do this. They need to." I'm like, "Oh, God."
This is what we hear a lot. Yeah, but don't forget, if you're speaking to an alcoholic, it's different. Sorry, what?
What do you think? Yeah.
Here's the biggest key, and I wanted this to be real short, sharp, and punchy, just to shift that. Again, it's not a right way or a wrong way. It's having the understanding that there is another way. That's a big problem when, one of our DLFF principles is mental flexibility, which is a way to view life. And like having the flexibility to know if you're stuck in one way of viewing the world, oh, by the way, if your results are great, cool, nothing to talk about. But if you want more from yourself, your ability to not be mentally flexible, which means to be flexible in your mentality, not be rigid, as Nat said, like rigid thinking would be the defending of something as opposed to being curious about something new. That's what it's about. It's like there's so many people, there's thousands of Australians out there in the moment going, thousands of Australians that are just going, I don't want to start a detox, because what if I tell my friends and that I'm doing a detox and 25th day I have a drink? They're going to shame me, or they're going to be like, "Oh, did you relapse again?" Like, that's so unattractive, isn't it? Like,
oh God,
it's one of the reasons why individuals don't set goals that aren't traditionally attractive to the tribe that they're in. It's because like, I don't want to step out from the tribe because I might need to come back up. I don't want to be judged. It's a real common and problematic experience in the alcohol industry. So it means that it's not fair to go sober in another industry like a rehab or an AA or something, and then be shunned or shamed for brackets relapsing. It just doesn't make sense. Like that. I think that's the greatest problem. That when you said she, my auntie or whoever it was, is like, feels she's back at square one, even though she's 15 years into the journey.
15 years.
To me, that's the dilemma. Not that you're drinking. That is the real problem that needs to be addressed. So you've been on a journey for 15 years, you had a drink on the weekend, and you feel in your heart that's damaging to the soul to think you're 15 years ago, or that you haven't progressed in life.
It's damaging to the soul.
Opposite.
It is. It's damaging to the soul. That's exactly what it is. And it's worse because everyone around them goes, ooh, like, is she okay? So what kind of response is that? If you like, you can tell me, I've had a few drinks on Messenger, and you're like, yes, this is going to be great, right? Just even that response is healthy.
Now, I had one of my good friends, Ben, reach out to me about a month ago. He's been doing the AA system for about 9-10 months, and he relapsed, had a night out. Basically, what he did was he had a night out. He was like 6 months sober. He had a night out. Very different to the context. He used to have a night out that would go for 3 days and was in like this culture and it was aggressive. He had a night. He had a night with another person. They went out on a date. They had some drinks. They went home. Wasn't an overly late night. Anyway, woke up the next morning and he touched base with his sponsor, and he went into like a hole of depression for 48 hours because he was consumed with what he was being told, which is it was kind of nurtured, but it was like, okay, you've relapsed. We need to start again and get back to the drawing board. And he called me on the third day, and I could hear in his voice, because we're very close, I could hear in his voice, he knows what I do, and I could hear in his voice how skeptical and scared he was to tell me. Because I'm like, probably what he says invested in him. And I'm like, yeah, you can do this and all that. And I'm like, we're good mates. And he goes, oh, yeah, just wanted to let you know, like, because I thought it's important, I'm in this program. It's all about being honest. I just wanted to let you know that I had some drinks the other night. I said, oh, nice, awesome. How'd that go? And he just paused. And he goes, what? I go, oh, how'd it go?
Yeah, great question. How'd it go?
And then he got emotional. And he finishes the conversation by saying, you're the only one in 3 days that has not approached this as if I'm on death's as if I'm on death's door. Interestingly enough,
there you go.
Hasn't had a drink in the last 3 weeks. Yeah. Like, this is the reason why this topic is so important, is because your approach to relapsing can be the number one reason why you continue to do it in the goddamn first place.
Yeah. Exactly. It's the burden of the word relapse. It comes with so much burden that it's just so unnecessary.
Imagine if we said that word, used that word in DLFF. Like, it's almost so.
Like, we'd be broke. We'd be.
yeah. What does that even mean, relapsing?
Yeah.
Oh. Matt, I'm going to zip my lips because I could just passionately get into a rant here. It'd be too emotionally fueled rather than
be charged.
Anything else you wanted to share with the listeners that may be wanting to flip the switch from,
maybe
this time I let go of relapsing and move on to a new approach?
Yeah, I do. I want to share a story of a client. Actually, we had an early session. I just got off the call with her just then. That she's been long-term drinker, but still, had her wits about her. She goes, look, I had some drinks in the week. Sweet. Tell me about it. Exactly the same thing. I'm exactly the same as you. Tell me about it. How'd it go? What'd you, tell me everything. And she goes, I was proud of myself. I'm like, yes. Okay, great. Tell me more. She's like, well, I had two. It made me feel a bit off and a bit anxious. And I said, I just don't want it. I don't want this anymore. And so for the next 3 days, I didn't have anything. And she said, I had a mimosa because my daughter was around. And she's like, it felt right. And then she goes, but the next day I had a great week. And she goes, the guilt crept in. I need to set a detox goal. She said it was the strangest thing. When she said that, this other part of her was like, you don't need to do that. You're good. I was like, what happened there? And then we cycled back to a conversation we had earlier about this journey, when we set goals and detoxes and things like that, we are setting up a point of closure. We want a closure. We want a knowing. We want to know we can do it. We want to get better. If you are in a system or you're setting detox goals, you're actually trying to create a sense of closure. Closure is impossible. It literally is impossible. So when we have this relapse situation, it's almost like, oh, I've failed, I haven't reached my point of closure. So I've relapsed and I've failed. If we can get well beyond that and just realize, hey, look, there is no point of closure. There is no security in this. It's deep and it's hard, and it's a never-ending thing that you work with on the daily. That relapse goes out the window.
No, you've nailed it there, because upon reflection, when you're talking, the majority of our Drink Less Feel Fresh members feel that they have choice when they stick to a rigid detox that we run, but 99% of them find freedom when they call you and I. We haven't even spoken to them. We go, how you doing? They go, yeah, good. We talk about life and stuff. We go, oh, by the way, how's that alcohol thing going? Oh, funny you ask. Yeah, actually, I haven't had drinking a couple of months.
Yeah.
So the difference
Exactly.
between that rigidity and like, I need to prove to myself that I can do it, but then true freedom comes through the lines of living in the moment, to the extent that you're making choices that support you without having to future plan them.
Yes, exactly.
I think we'll finish with this. Yeah, go on.
No, please, Tommy, please. I was just going to add.
I think we'll finish with this, Nat, that if you can walk away from this podcast episode on relapsing with just the awareness that in life you always want to gain some form of feedback to continue to nurture you and your moral guiding compass on where to go in life. But if you're falling into the category of relapsed and then punishing yourself for it, you're not getting feedback from life itself. You're getting feedback from a rigid system.
Oh, nice. Can you say it again, Tommy?
Yeah, so I actually heard this. I'll give the proper context. I think it's important. I actually heard this around a parenting technique, which was, if you continually tell your kids not to do dangerous things, they'll grow up continuing to do dangerous things and waiting for you to save them. They won't actually ever understand that doing a dangerous thing can lead to a personal, problematic, physical or emotional outcome for them. So I took that into alcohol, and it's the same as this relapse. If you continue to gain feedback, let's say you relapse, if your feedback is that you've done a naughty thing and you've been a bad boy or a bad girl or a bad person, you're getting feedback from the 12-step AA system or your psychologist who told you not to, or you're getting feedback from me on that. If we never would, but if we told you not to drink, like, you're not getting feedback like Sarah did on the weekend, which was like, instead of punishing myself from you guys or some system, my physical and emotional body was telling me, hey, Sarah, not feeling that good today. You want to do this? And then you get feedback from the universe. That's you interacting with life and starting to understand, what do I want? As opposed to, as you said, people that are in the system 15 years going without knowing it, doesn't matter what I want. They said I shouldn't drink again. I drank, I should punish.
Perfect. One. Great point to finish. That's bang on. That's so good. That's so good.
Let's go out there. And this is why it is paramount. We're not going to use the word. It's paramount that you go out there and have a crack. Listen to the difference. Not relapse, have a crack. You got to go out there. If you never have a drink for the rest of your life, you don't actually have, not saying, fucking I am just saying it like that. if you go out there and you never have a drink again, that's great. Love that you've got the choice and freedom, but I would also trust someone more who's had a drink and knows how to handle themselves after, than someone who doesn't trust if they could ever handle themselves after a drink.
Yeah, perfect. Cracking episode.
Cracking episode, Nat. Here's to ditching the term relapsing. Here's to failing forward. Here's to getting out there, having a crack and getting feedback from the universe.
Having a crack.
Having a crack. Let's replace the word relapse as having a crack.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this live, thank you so much for being here. Thanks, Isabel. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate the people that are on the call. If you're listening to this in your car or whilst you're on a jog or whatever it is that you're doing on Spotify or YouTube, head to drinklessfeelfresh.com. You can register and show up live in the future if you'd like. By the way, anybody that is listening, actually, no, I wasn't going to share this. 20th of March, next 30-day detox drink less challenge is coming up.
20th of March.
Currently 50% off and maxing out at 50 people. And we're still 2 weeks away, but already a third of the tickets are gone. So jump in quick. Just hit us up at info@drinklessfeelfresh.com and we'll make sure you're looked after.
Unreal, Tommy. Unreal.
Thanks, Nat. Great way to start the week, everyone. Have a cracking Monday.
See you guys.
Boy.